He went on the run for 10 days, and I don't still to this day will never know where he went. And I was losing my mind, as anybody would. I have this newborn. I'm like, where are you? What's going on? He called me 3 times from these burner phones, and he would say, well, you have 60 seconds to talk. And he was trying to tell me what to do. Like, I need for you to go to the safety security box. I need for you to do this. And the whole time I'm like, where are you? When are you coming home? What the hell's going on? The feds came. Like, what's happening? What is going on? And that was our first fight.
You're listening to Divorce Party with Monica Casey and Tom Arnold. Our guest today is Krista Llamas. She's a mother, a business owner, and she has one of the craziest divorce/post-divorce stories you've ever heard. Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course. I can't believe I'm doing this, to be quite honest with you. I'm not one to talk about this, but I feel like it's time.
So I've known Krista for over 10 years, or about like 10
a little
years.
over 10 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Because Alice was about one and a half, and it was when we bought the first house, and I hired Jeff, and then immediately he was like, you need to meet Monica. She's going through this too.
Yeah. So we were both clients of Jeff's at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, were your clients on TV? Did he do your houses on TV? Is that how? And how does that come about? How do you get to be on his show?
Well,
I emailed him. I don't know. I emailed him and just said, we need a full renovation. And luckily they were, obviously maybe not too busy, and they were able to come take a look and, decided to do it. Obviously had like a glass of wine to like convince them. But they basically just say, do you want to do the show? And there's no discounts. There's no perks, really.
No. It was a little different for me because we were living in La Jolla at the time. And I was interviewing different home interior designers, and I was already on my third person. And I was watching Jeff's show, but not the flipping out one, the other one where he would move people in quickly, like in a week.
Was that interior therapy?
I think it was interior therapy. And I kept referencing him to these different designers, like, well, have you heard of Jeff Lewis? Because he can get you in really quickly, because they were estimating a time of like 6 months to move in. And I was like, that's crazy. Jeff Lewis can get people in like a week. And then the last girl was like, if you like him so much, why don't you hire him? And I was like, that never crossed my mind that I could actually do that. And then I went online and I talked to my then husband, and he was like, yeah, why haven't you done that? Just say there's no budget. And I was like, okay. And a week later, they were in La Jolla.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that hard to hire him.
So what year was this?
This was back in 2013, 14. Yeah. 10 years.
And you were, go ahead. And you were married then. Now here's why I chatted with you at
yes, at Leah's.
And I've heard a lot of stuff. I've been a part of some of my divorces have been out there, but hearing having what Lee said to me first and sitting talking to you, I just blown away of how cinematic your life, your story is.
It is. It is like a movie. It's a movie that I want to get out of.
Yeah,
but I can't seem to see the light. I'm still going through it, which is crazy. So I know I ran into you at Leah's. I talked your ear off, and yeah, and I know Monica had mentioned the podcast earlier in the summer, and I spoke to Monica about it. I was like, I never want to bash the father of my child or anything like that, and I never want to have something out there that she might see one day that might upset her. But at the same time, it is what she's going to see it on the internet anyway someday, and I'm going to have to explain it that either way.
Yeah, that's very true.
So regardless if I say it now to you guys or in a couple of years when she figures out how to Google him, then it is what it is. And it's all on the internet, and it's something that I wish I could erase, but it's part of my life, and it's been, a big part of who I've become. And it was a crazy journey to get here, for sure. Like the divorce was insane. And I know that you guys both have been through it, and I'm happy to hear that, Monica, you're on the other side of it and happily co-parenting. And Tom, I know you're still going through it, right?
It'll be forever. It's perpetual.
Right.
He's divorced, but he's going through the custody things all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, the ex parte.
Yeah. Just a lot of that nonsense. But I think to your point, it's better that your daughter hears from you, because one day what her friends will, or parents of her friends, or, and that would be shocking to have a friend or whatever say, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Better to, get the facts from mom, to jump. It's not like you could go rewrite history. So I think that's the best way to do it. Your daughter's 10.
Yeah, and I have in the garage, I have all, when you're finished with once you're finished with your divorce, your attorneys ask you to come pick up your boxes. And I had 12 boxes. So I have all 12 boxes still in the garage in the storage. And I've already kind of put together, aside any paperwork, like if she has questions and wants proof, evidence, that kind of thing, like I can at least show it to her. I don't want her to think, because I can already tell you that I've been in probate now for 7 years with his parents. So my husband passed away, or we were divorced, and then he passed away.
Can you explain what probate is to anyone listening that doesn't understand?
Yeah, probate is a place where you don't want to ever be. It's where you go when there wasn't a will and somebody passes, and people believe it's up for debate as to who the next line of succession should be, or who's entitled to whatever assets he may have had. And in our case, it's our daughter. We were divorced legally for not even a year, and then he died. We were still, just like you, Tom, in the family court system, though, even after the divorce, because I got 100% custody. He was only allowed supervised visits, which he decided not to take. He decided to go a different route, which was basically have me followed every single day in hopes that I would mess up. Yeah, he was really hoping he could find or catch me doing something and use that in court, as opposed to doing the rehab and the 1 year of good standing with a therapist that was required for him to do in order for him to come for a change of custody. And that's what he continued to do up until he died. And so I was being followed. He tried to frame me with drugs in the car. It got to the point where I used to have to hire a PI to follow me, to let me know if I was being followed, if I just needed to go home, not worth the risk. Because I never wanted to put myself in a situation where I would ruin my perfect standing in the court, which was, as far as the court side is concerned, like in my opinion, I was doing everything right. I did everything that was asked of me.
Truth be told, if your ex-husband had done these things with the rehab, with he might be alive. So let's go back for a second and tell me. I obviously know from the internet, but go ahead and tell us how he died.
Yeah.
So right about, God, Alice was only about 4 months old. It was September 2012. We used to joke around. This is when we were happily married. We used to joke around about what our first fight would be about. And in September of 2012, the feds came to our apartment, and they were looking for him. And no, I was brand new mom. I was 24 years old. No, I'm from a small town in Texas, not used to this kind of stuff. And I was very, very thrown off by it all. And they were looking for him. And I was like, he's at work. And they were like, no, he's not at work. We just left his office. And I was like, all right, let me call him. So I tried calling him, phone's off. And I'm talking to there's like 3 officers there. And I was like, well, it's weird, his phone is off. And then I was like, where is he? And then they're like, that's what we're asking you. And I'm like, well, I don't know where he is. If he's not at work, then I don't know where he is. And then I started asking them more questions, and this is kind of silly, but it just shows how young and dumb I was. They were like, today he was indicted for 32 counts of wire fraud and mail fraud, and I didn't know what they were talking about, and I didn't know what the word indictment meant. And the first thing out of my mouth was, he's white. He's from NorCal. Like, I thought they were meant deportation. And like, I was so dumb at the time. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, he's not from a different country.
Like, he's a citizen.
Yeah. And they're like, what? And then I started asking them so many questions about what this indictment was. Then I was like, well, that's terrible. They're telling me this stuff. I'm like, what did he do? Like, apparently he had this whole criminal past that he had accomplished by the time he was like 19, whether he did it or not. He never ever spoke to me about it. And that was the nail in the coffin for our marriage, was that I was never allowed to ask about the indictment. And he would always, if I tried to bring it up, he would leave. He would actually physically leave and not come home. And then he would come back and he's like, if you bring it up again, I'm going to leave again. So it became this, like, where I was having to be quiet all the time.
Eggshells. And that's like a punishment. Like, I'm going to punish you.
Yes, I was not allowed to ask him about the indictment. And it wasn't until we went to his arraignment in Sacramento, when I'm sitting in there and I'm seeing these men in shackles and orange, I'm like, this is insane. I can't believe I'm here. And I see him up there, and I hear the district attorney say that they have enough evidence to put him away to go to the moon and back. And I'm like, I thought you didn't do anything.
And this was all before you had started dating him?
He did all this before I knew him.
Wow.
All this before I knew him. Yeah.
Chance that he was not telling you to protect you.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure those feds could figure out, like, this bitch doesn't know anything.
Oh, I think they wanted to leave the house because I was asking so many questions about it. Like, I wanted to know what this meant. How could he have done this? I've been with him every day, like, I just kind of, and then Michael went on the run. His name was Krista Llamas, and he went on the run for 10 days. And I don't, still to this day, will never know where he went. And he came home
on the run after they showed up at your apartment.
but he never came back.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he never came home. And I was losing my mind, as anybody would.
Yep.
I have this newborn. I'm like, where are you? What's going on? And he called me 3 times from these burner phones, and he would say, well, you have 60 seconds to talk. And he was trying to tell me what to do. Like, I need for you to go to the safety security box. I need for you to do this and that. And the whole time I'm like, where are you? When are you coming home? What the hell's going on? The feds came. Like, what's happening? What is going on? And that was our first fight, which is crazy. And then when he came home, he was a different person. So I feel like while he was gone, he had some sort of psychological breakdown or something happened, because everything about him changed. His demeanor changed, his voice changed, the way he walked, the way he treated me was all of a sudden now a different person. And I don't know, sometimes when I was in therapy, my therapist would say, maybe it's because the skeletons were out of the closet, so he could finally be himself.
Yeah.
Or what he told me when we went to couples therapy after all this, because of course I was wanting to go to therapy, he flat out told the therapist that he lost respect for me that day because I wasn't being supportive of him when he was trying to tell me what to go do. I was more concerned about where he was and what was going on. He's like, I had 60 seconds to talk, and I was like, look, I'm a ride or die type of wife. If you'd given me a heads up and maybe been like code word or like this was going to happen, maybe I would have been more complacent.
Like, here's where the passports and the money are. Just,
like, give me a heads up. You can't just keep me in the dark and then expect me to know what to do or how to react when something like this happens.
In the mob, they would tell you, here's the thing, you're out of I don't want to talk about business with you. And then you want to talk to the other wives. We don't talk about business, but when the shit hits the fan, and it will hit the fan, here you do A, B, C, D, E. How many
Yeah.
years were you guys together before the raid from
The indictment.
indictment?
We were dating for about 11 months and quickly started living together maybe 6 months in. And then we got married in Vegas, like a drunk married in Vegas type of thing, because one of his business partners was in Vegas, and I don't know, we just decided to do. I had been previously engaged, so I kind of knew the wedding process, and I did not want to go through that again.
Yeah.
So
And
with
how did you meet him? Like, did you meet him
we
under?
met at a rave, which is so crazy. We're so young.
That's funny.
And
Yeah.
we met at a Skrillex show. He bumped into me, dropped my drink, and I was like, hey, like, you dropped my drink. And he's like, I'll buy you another one. And then the rest is history. We were together all night and every day after that. It was kind of, looking back on it, you know, it was all the red flags were definitely there, the love
Sure.
bombing, the stuff that I now know. But at the time, of course, I was so young and naive.
When you first were going through this first week, sorry, about when the feds came and all that, did you have anyone to turn to, or were you too scared to talk to anyone, like your family
My
or?
best friend Katie at the time, she's still one of my best friends, but she still lives in San Diego. I told her because I needed to tell someone, and I did tell my parents what was going on, and yeah, it was also all over the news. It was
Oh,
all
wow.
over the news when he got indicted. So
And you lived in La Jolla at the time, right?
lived
Which I
in La
feel like is
Jolla,
a
and
small town.
yeah, and he was I don't think I don't think I can say he is the creator or inventor of CBD, but he is the
Like one.
pioneer of it all. And I remember when CBD was still called cannabidiol, and then he liked the term CBD because it rolled off the tongue better. And I remember him getting the patents and all that. And so I remember us going from nothing to everything in the span of 2 years, meaning like living in a small apartment that was like $2,000 a month to then being able to buy a $4 million, almost $4 million house in cash. That's how fast our lives changed. And so a part of me never really understood, and I guess I'll never know if it was because of the money or if he was just always like this, you know, if he was always kind of this person. Because the person that I married and the person I was dating, it was like I thought I was living in a fairy tale.
Yeah, but I know substance abuse does not help. And
No.
like, I'm sure his paranoia is why he was hiring private investigators to follow you, like all of those.
Oh yeah, and after the indictment, it became really crazy because he thought our house was tapped. He thought everybody was listening to us on our phones. He thought that there were people watching us everywhere we went. It became a very and that's why the drinking became a problem, because he had never had issues before with the drinking or anything like that. We'd always have fun, go out, get drunk, have a great time, and then all of a sudden after the indictment, it was every time he drank, he became this person that hated me, zero respect for me. I mean, it started with the verbal abuse, and then it became physical on 3 occasions, the third time being the worst. And I can't believe I'm talking about this, but I think it's important for me to talk about it. But the third time being the worst, where I almost died, and it happened in front of Alice, and she was 2 at the time. So I called the police, they arrested him, and he was out on bond from his indictment. So he was not supposed to be getting in any trouble. He had it convinced in his head that I did that on purpose to try to get him in jail sooner. When all I was thinking was, I woke up from being unconscious from what he did in my daughter's room. I grabbed her and I took the phone off the phone charger in my bedroom, locked us in the bathroom, and I called 911. They stayed on the phone with me until they arrived. And they said all my doors in the house were open, the front doors, the back doors. So he made it look like he'd left on foot, like, and so they had, I don't know how many patrol cars in La Jolla looking for him. And La Jolla's small.
Yeah.
And this is happening around 4 or 5 in the morning. And it is so embarrassing. I have so many cop cars in front of my house. Everybody is searching for him. And they're keeping me and Alice in my bedroom while they're taking pictures of me and interviewing me. And they even tried to talk to Alice, which was, you know, she was only 2.
Oh, sad.
Yeah. And they ended up finding him in our attic. So he made it look like he went on the run somewhere,
Right.
opening all the doors.
Yeah.
And then they found him hiding in the attic.
How did they do that? Did they go? Were they searching?
They were searching, I guess, the whole house, and that's where they found him. But it took a long time. I was in my bedroom for what felt like hours before they finally were like, it's safe.
I feel like this is a Netflix doc that I would spend my whole weekend like on the couch, hugging a pillow, watching.
I mean, and when it's happening to you, you're in so much denial. You're like, this isn't happening to me. I'm not in an abusive marriage. How can I be in this? Like, I was raised better than to be in a position like this. But when it's happening to you, it's so fast, and you really don't have the time to think logically, I think. And I think what ended up happening was the best thing for me. The police ended up arresting him, and they were, regardless, and I said, no, please don't press charges. He's going to kill me. Like, he's out on out on bond. He can't be getting in trouble. Like, he's going to kill me. And they're like, well, what do you think's going to happen? We can hold him for like 48 hours, but then he's going to come back home. And what do you think he's going to do to you? And I was like, he's going to kill me. And so they're like, I think it's, you know, they asked me to get a restraining order, which it was a Saturday that this happened. So I had to find an attorney available. I called so many places. I was so disheveled and just such a mess. And I was like, I had 24 hours or 48 hours, I can't remember, to somehow get a restraining order in place so that he couldn't come back home by the time he got out of jail. And then the state of California ended up pressing charges on him. One for assault with a deadly weapon, and they put his hands. And then the second was for it being in front of a child. And then CPS got involved. Oh. And I remember I was at work. This is when I used to own my hair salons, and they called, my nanny called me and said that CPS was looking for me. I rushed home because I knew, like, that's serious. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm busy. Rushed home, and probably the worst thing in the world ever happened. They made me strip down Alice, and they looked inside her. And it was like the worst thing ever as a mom. And I think that's when I realized I need to get a divorce, or I need to get out. And then they told me that they were going to make this like kind of a routine of checking in on her. And I was like, well, what can I do to stop this? Like, is there anything I can do to make sure that this is not a part of her childhood? I don't want this to be a thing I have to go through again. And they said, well, you can sign a safety plan. I was like, I'll do it. I didn't even know what that was. I just said, I'll do it. I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was signing away basically everything. I signed a safety plan with CPS, and a safety plan is something that they put in place that if you break it, you lose custody of your child. And in the safety plan, it says, I'm going to keep the restraining order. I'm not going to speak to him. I'm not going to allow him near us. I'm going to file for divorce. I'm going to, like, it's all these things that I had to do. And I had to do it. And so I kept trying.
You wish in that moment that you had a lawyer present? Like, is that something you would recommend for others?
So you understood what was going on.
Yeah, I understood what was going on, and I didn't care anymore about our relationship or marriage. I cared about making sure that this never happened again to a kid.
Yeah.
So if that, I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Because they even gave me a statistic. They were like, we will stop coming if you sign the safety plan, because, and I can't remember, and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it was a really high number, like 90 something % of women stay with their abuser. And I was like, well, I won't, like, I will do this, like, I will sign this. And that's what I had to do. And they say, like, you have to go through something so bad sometimes for it to end. And I think that that's like how bad it had to get for me to.
Well, it's their job to protect the child. And they've certainly been in many situations where they have a sense of, okay, this is, the mother seems traumatized. We have to do our job. So I feel like that was obviously to protect you and to also encourage you to, you got to step up and do the right thing. It's hard.
Yeah.
A lot of women, we've talked to a bunch of women. It's such a shit place to be put in, where your husband is up to, criminal activity or whatever, and then becomes abusive, and you got a little baby there. I do want a timeline. So you guys meet at the rave. You guys just hit it off, crazy good. You move in together. How long after that, and you get married? How long after that was the baby on the way then, or what was the?
Yeah, the baby was, we would just found out that we were pregnant, and that I think that was a huge catalyst into getting married, because my family is very, very conservative and religious, and they actually like did not want to even speak to me when I told them that. Actually, I didn't even tell them I was pregnant. He was so excited, he posted it on Facebook, and that's how everyone found out I was pregnant. And I was I was like, wow, okay, way of telling everybody. But so yeah, we went to Vegas, and and got married, but we still had like kind of a wild night. I think we were just so young, and I didn't really understand, and I wasn't mature enough to understand what was going on. So I kind of didn't take care of my body at the beginning the way that I should have, or that I would now in hindsight. And we were just young and wild.
But the good news that came out of this horrible situation is your daughter. I mean, that's solid. That's the victory, although it's all been on you.
Yeah.
Well, how was his family when they found out you guys had they treated you well up till then? Were they encouraging? Were they supportive?
Yeah, were they ever fans of yours?
Oddly enough, he never really wanted me to have any. He always acted like he was not close with his family, and so I met them for the first time when I was already almost like 9 months pregnant. And
wow, this is very dirty, John.
Yeah, and
because they knew his sort of secrets. Did they know that he was in trouble before and all of that?
I mean, they had to have known. They had to have known what everything that took place before him and I meeting. So what happened when he allegedly, because I'll never know the truth, allegedly when this stuff happened for his indictment, he moved to San Diego, and I just so happened to be the first person he meets when he moves to San Diego, because all this took place in San Francisco, the indictment stuff, the stuff he was being indicted for. And he was very young. He was 19 and I think the statute of limitations was up, and a bunch of other guys were involved, and it was, I guess, a Ponzi scheme, and they named him as one of the guys. And I had no idea. And I'm from a place, my dad's from Mexico City. Everybody's very manly. And like, I told him from day one, I was like, if you did something wrong, like go serve your time and like get out. But if you can get out by the time Alice is like 5 or 6, like she won't even know. Like, and I was like pushing for that as opposed to what he wanted, which was trying to help him stay out of getting in, which I'm like, you're not going to get away with whatever you're trying to get away with, like I was not, I guess maybe if you would, I think, I wasn't compliant. And also because he never told me, he never explained anything to me.
Was he very excited about the birth of your child, and very
so excited?
Did he involve himself? Did he change the diapers? Did he stay up late? Did he put, you know,
No. He was not in that sense involved. You know, he didn't do the diaper changing. He slept like a rock. Couldn't hear anything. He never woke up with the crying. He, you know, at looking back on it, now and being more educated in like mental wellness and all that stuff and mental illness, I can definitely think and say for certainty that I think that there was some like borderline personality disorder with him. There was different sides of him. You never knew which side you were going to get. He was very, some days he was a family guy, some days he was great, and other days he was out with girls, didn't care how I felt, driving around in fast cars and yachts and planes and all of that. So I never knew if it was the money or if it was him. I couldn't tell, because I was like, all this sort of started when the money came, but at the same time, the indictment happened at the exact same time. So I'll never know if it was because of the skeletons coming out or if it was the money that played a big impact.
no matter what, it's a character defect. I mean, that he has, and you display it. You know, not everybody shows their cards first, or even they can sort of hide some. And also, you could be in denial. You look back, oh shit, yeah, that was, I understand it. I've done that exactly.
Yeah, when you're going through trauma, I think denial is a huge thing, and we become master compartmentalizers just to be able to go day to day, especially when you're a mom and you have a young baby and you're just like, fuck, this is
And I remember getting to a point where I was at, and I thank God, even being as young as I was self-aware enough to know this isn't normal. Like, this is not normal. My life, this everything that's happening right now is not normal. I need to go talk to someone. I need to go make sure my head's okay, because the last thing I want is to be walking around acting like I'm fine, and then everyone's like, that girl's fucking crazy, you know, like she's lost her mind or whatever that could be. So I was seeing a therapist regularly and a psychiatrist regularly, and they put me on a bunch of, I think I hit, like, I scored like a 28 out of 30 on the anxiety depression scale. I was also diagnosed with battered woman syndrome, which I think is very common with women in abusive marriages or any sort of relationship, where you just kind of blame yourself a lot. And I will say I was very lucky in the sense that because of the indictment, all of the cash was in my account, so I was able to afford to pay for a divorce, you know. And I think that is like so crucial to the story, because most women can't leave, or most men, women, whatever the case may be,
nothing.
they have nothing. They're given a little allowance, maybe weekly, or a credit card. You get an American Express, but you have no idea how much money your husband or wife has.
Right.
And
I'm assuming when he's indicted, everything's frozen that's in his name.
no, because the indictment, the money that we had nothing to do with his indictment. The money that we have was from his medical marijuana company that he started.
Sometimes they freeze all the money. They're like, well, we're going to freeze
just in case,
all the accounts just to see what we got.
Yeah, I think that would have been the case if the business in question for the indictment was still in existence, but it wasn't at this point. It had been already, it was the statute of limitations had gone up. It had been 7 years, I believe.
How long did it take you from the time you filed for divorce, how long did it take you to
get divorced?
And then once you signed the contract with CPS, like, you know, was everything okay? Like, were you able to?
Yeah, well, that safety plan really kept me in check. It kept me from doing the things. I remember specifically being it's a crazy story, but when I had the restraining order, he had been, I know that we were not supposed to be in contact because of the restraining order, but he had been telling me over text message that he was going to be going to rehab. And me thinking, oh God, maybe there's a way he's going to come around and be a good guy. I wanted to be supportive of that. So I made the text short and sweet and like, I'm happy, thank you. And I remember there being 2 specific times where he would call and FaceTime, and he would be up against a white wall. He'd be talking about his roommates in this rehab that he was in he said Malibu. And I remember him talking about the roommates. I remember him talking about what he did that day. And I remember him saying, I'm not going to have my phone for a couple of days. We're doing some sort of group therapy thing. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And mind you, I had a restraining order, so I was breaking my own restraining order, which is why I lost it. But I'll get to that later. But while I was at work, I got a phone call from, I'll never forget it, from RV Solutions in San Diego. And they called me and they were like, we're looking for your husband. And I was like, he's not in town. He's in LA. And they're like, oh, he just left our store. And I was like, why was he at your store? And what is your store? And they're like, we sell RVs. And I was like, okay, I don't understand what. I think you have the wrong guy. And then they're like, no, we looked you up. We found your salon blow pop dry bar. We're calling you. We're just looking for him because he forgot to sign this paperwork. We need him to come back. And I was like, you have the wrong guy. And I was like, he said he was on his way to Burning Man. And I was like,
Oh,
you
shit.
have the wrong guy. My husband's in LA. I didn't want to say rehab, but and then I was like, can you send me a picture of the license? And actually I knew that what when they sent it and it was him. And I was like, well, you do realize that this is not a driver's license, because when you're indicted, they take away your driver's license, they take away your passport. So he had a real ID. And I was like, so you just sold $150,000 RV to a guy with a no driver's license and he's indicted. Like, and I told the people at the RV Solutions and then they're just like, bye-bye, you know, and then I found out I had to hire a PI, and I found out he was never in rehab. He was at Burning Man. He was at our beach condo less than a mile from our house for the last month, with a escort from Las Vegas living with him. And yes, his parents were there too.
Oh my
And
God.
I found all this watching video from this PI that I hired to follow him because I was like, where is he if he's not in rehab?
Yeah, RV Solution, the name of the business when you said it. I was like, that sounds like an RV place, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure RV.
Me too. I thought it was something else. I thought it was like protective services calling and saying, we know you've been texting, you're fucked.
Yeah.
No, that's how I found out he wasn't in rehab, was like he bought an RV to go to Burning Man of all places.
The faking that he was in rehab, the faking up against the wall, talking about his roommate. I mean,
This is high level, high functioning con artist.
Yes. And I couldn't do anything because I had this safety plan that I couldn't break. You know, I couldn't go. I wanted so badly to go march into our beach condo and be like, what the fuck's going on? Like, who is this bitch? And like, why are your parents here?
You have to stay home and stay out of it. Yeah.
I had to took every ounce of strength to stay strong and not react to these things that he was doing. And after that, it was just a snowball effect of him doing similar things to try to get me to do something crazy, which I, thank God, was able to not do, because
planting drugs in your car, a brick of cocaine or whatever it was. I think the great thing is the guy you had following you to see if he was having somebody follow you told you, yeah, don't go. There's something in your car.
They said, so yeah, the story is, since I had the bank accounts, I had the house in my name, I had the cars in my name. The PI told me that they had seen him drinking and driving really bad with one of the cars that was registered in my name. He wasn't even a registered driver. And so I had the spare key. And I was like, I'm going to go pick up the car from you, because I can't have you driving around in a car drunk, acting like this. That's technically registered in my name. So I had somebody follow me to go pick up the car. And actually, no, I'm sorry. I had somebody watching the car to go find the car so I could find out where it was. It turns out it was just at our beach condo. And so I had my house manager, Ramon, at the time, drive me in his truck to go pick up the car. And then as we're driving, the PI's like, Krista, we just want to let you know somebody's watching the car and somebody just put something in the car. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we're PIs. We all know each other here in San Diego. And apparently there was one PI over here watching the car, and then my PI over here letting me know what was going on.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And then they're like, well, I was like, what if I have Ramon block that PI with his car while I take that car and drive it the opposite direction, and I'll just take the back roads home instead of doing the normal route home. It was less than a mile. And so that's what I did. And I got the car into and the PI told me that as soon as they realized that the car was gone, they took off, and they were like, what the fuck? How did the car disappear? Because Ramon blocked them. And then I get the car into my garage. I closed the garage. My girlfriend Natalie is with me at the time. We're like, all right, let's figure out what's in the car, and it looked like the car had been detailed, super, super clean. And all that was in the back seat compartment was this, I'm not going to say it was it wasn't a brick, but I mean, it could be a brick, but it was like a white substance powder packaged like that in the glove compartment. And the first thing we did was stick our long nails in it. And we're like, what is this? And then both of our tongues went numb. We're like, oh my God, it's drugs. We both were like, what do we do? What do we do? And I was like, I guess I have to call the police. I don't know.
You're like, shit.
I'm like, what do I do? Because it made me so mad. I'm like, he wanted to get me pulled over with this shit in the car. That's why he had somebody watching the car.
Mm-hmm.
And it blew my mind, because then I would have gone to prison for way longer than him, like way, way longer for the amount of cocaine that was in the car. And I called the police, and thank God it was the same guy who came to the house the night that he was arrested, because I guess La Jolla has only a certain amount of men to send. And I was like, I don't know what to do. There's all this coke in the car. And he's like, technically it's your coke because it's your car.
Oh shit.
Like, fuck. And then I was like, but it's not mine. I wouldn't have called the cops on myself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you guys to put this in, like, I want you guys to document this so I can use this in court.
Go put it in your drug closet like you guys have.
I thought that they were going to give me some sort of documentation so that I could use it in court.
Yeah, I'm signing this brick of drugs over to you.
Yeah, but I had it on video, so that was good enough, because the PI had it on video.
Say, well, you should consider selling it. Didn't your friend say?
I mean, are you kidding me? All my guy friends were like, you're so stupid. We could have sold that. And I'm like, you guys, I'm trying to I'm trying
to not lose my fucking child.
I'm trying to do the right thing here.
Okay, so you're divorced. You get to keep the house because it was in your name, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you're divorced for almost less than a year. And then everyone that knows you, we all find out one morning, like what happened?
So it was 3 weeks before he was supposed to turn himself in to serve his time. He was going to do 7 years. And 3 weeks before he did it, he died. I'm going to say that for me was not surprising, because he had told me several times, like, I'm never going to spend a day in prison. I will either fake my death or I will kill myself before I spend 1 day in prison. And I believe that to be true, because he couldn't, in therapy, he couldn't look at himself in the mirror, which was one of the things that the therapist asked him to do. He couldn't look at himself in the mirror. So I don't think he could have handled being alone, sober, with his thoughts of everything that he had done.
He gained like 100 pounds or something.
He did, yeah.
So he looked different. I
Totally
just by stuff I was looking through, and so he's out driving his Lambo or whatever, and he's got Miss Mexico in the car. Yeah, And he
Yeah.
driving past down by the I forget which thing it
Marina.
is.
Yeah, he hit this, like, it's like an anchor monument thing. She let herself out of the car before it crashed, which I will say there was an incident like when he did that with me where he was acting like he was going to drive us off the cliff once, and he was acting very erratic and I had to calm him down. And I thought to myself, I need to let myself out of the car because he's going to kill us. So I can only imagine, and I do know what that girl was going through at that time because I went through it too. And letting yourself out of the car is probably the best option. I think the thing that is like what we've all been wondering is whether or not he faked it or not. And I only say that because his dad, and I don't even care at this point if I talk about it because I've stayed quiet for so long.
I saw pictures of the crash,
Mhm.
and was there not his body in there?
So that's to be, I spoke to a firefighter who said there was no body, but then his dad said that there was, and his dad was in charge of all the funeral arrangements, identifying the body. His dad is an ex-cop. His dad's an ex-cop, and his dad I have been in probate with for 7 years now, and I've gotten to know his dad, and I've gotten to know what his dad is capable of and his family is capable of. And after, this is the worst part about after the death, is that now I'm considered the ex-wife, so I was not able to get access to a lot of things that I wish I could have gotten access to, like identifying the body, or when I was going through his financials after he died, I saw that he had chartered a G6 to take him to Switzerland the night that he died. And I wanted to find out if he was on that plane. It was the same night that he died. And he actually got his passport back from the government to go to Switzerland. And I found the documents for that too. And they were like, no, we're sorry, we can't give you that information. You're no longer married. And so I was like, God, okay. And so then it became this, and then I'm still going through family. I was actually supposed to see him in family court the week that he died. And then I was already in probate court that same week. So I had to go and retain a whole new set of attorneys for probate. And it was just, it's still such a nightmare. I can't tell what's worse, family court or probate court. I really don't know what's worse.
Yeah, okay, so the young woman did not die in the wreck.
She didn't die in the wreck. She let herself out of the car and she died in the hospital like about a week later from internal bleeding.
So she got out of the car after they smashed, or
she got out of the car before impact, before the car crashed. So I have different theories. I mean, I'm not going to go around like chasing ghosts though. So for the sake of probate, like I'm going to stick to him being dead. Yes, because they're also, all this is for no reason, but there's a lot of questionable things that have happened. And the yacht, for example, yeah, I was looking for his yacht because I wanted to see if I could sell it to help pay for these attorneys that I now needed to hire to represent our daughter. Because now I'm the ex-wife, I can't go in there myself anymore. It's now somebody needs to be representing Alice, which turned out to be, I don't know how, I mean, it's so fucked up because we weren't divorced very long, and had we stayed married, I would have never had to go through this probate.
Right.
But because Alice is underage, it's like me having to once again defend my character, defend all this stuff. You defend myself against his parents who are saying like that I'm a gold digger and that I'm that they wanted me to even do a paternity test. And I was like, you guys are disgusting.
Yeah.
Like disgusting people.
You're really protecting your daughter. I mean,
Yeah.
all of it. That's why you should have been given the information about his body or whatever.
We weren't even invited to the funeral.
Yeah.
We were not invited to the funeral. And then I was looking for the yacht, and I called his parents and I asked them where it was, and they're like, we think that he sold it. And I was like, well, I saw him have a party on it like not too long ago. I don't think he sold it. They're like, no, well, if we find it, we'll let you know. And I'd been asking them if they could help me in any way because I didn't want to have to sell my house to pay for these attorneys. But that's what ended up happening. I had to sell the house to pay for these attorneys. And then I found out 6 months, or actually, this I can tell you exactly the day because I was telling you Tom at the party. On the news on September, let's look at my voicemails. On the news, September 5th, 2018, Michael called me. He died November 5th, 2017. And if you look at the headlines and you look it up, there was a shooting aboard his yacht on November 4th, 2018. And it said one person was killed. It didn't say who. So my first reaction was, oh my God, it's one of his parents that died. And that was my first reaction. I didn't think it was the guy, the repo guy or whoever. I've heard it was the repo guy.
It was the repo guy that the dad killed.
I heard that it was the repo guy. His dad is claiming it was an intruder and that it was self-defense because his dad shot and killed him 4 times in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael called me that same night, and I feel like Michael was calling me to find out if his parents were still alive, which goes back to is he alive? Is he, you know what I mean?
Right. Because we had this discussion when you first told me that you got a call from his phone.
When I saw my phone ringing with his name on it, I was like, I was already scared because of the shooting being on the news that day. I was already scared, and the phone call happened at 1 a.m. So it's like scary at that time. And I didn't answer the phone because I was like, what? How is he calling me? And the voicemail is just kind of, you just hear kind of breathing. There's nothing there. But I feel like there's just too many coincidences for me to fully believe that he's gone. But for the sake of probate and for the sake of everything that I've gone through, I have to stick to the story.
Also, you showed me your phone with the call was still incoming call is still listed on your phone after.
Yeah, I saved it.
It's a very, there's a possibility that his parents had his phone or somebody else, but it's all nefarious. I want to say there's a bigger story about this. But my question is, why wouldn't his parents do everything they could to assist you so they could have a granddaughter? For his, did he have other? That seems like might have been his only child, his only connection to them. They should have been like, what can we do for you to make sure
that's what I think any normal grandparent would do, and that's what I thought they were going to do. I found out through the 7 years of probate that they are nothing like normal grandparents, and they really do believe that they are entitled to everything and anything that he made. We did a trial. We won the trial. They appealed it again. Like, they won't stop. They have convinced in their minds that they're entitled to things over our daughter, which is not the law. And as I am the guardian of her estate, and it is my fiduciary duty to go after anything that she is entitled to, or else I could lose my position. So it's not that I want to be in probate fighting like this, but I don't have a choice, because if I give up, anybody can come in and say, hey, she's doing a bad job as guardian, I want to take her spot. So I'm stuck in this position of continuously trying to fight for what is hers. But through the last 7 years, all this has gone to attorneys, and it's been a nightmare. And I'm not even sure if she's going to end up with anything, if I'm going to be quite honest with you, because
it's overwhelming, and you're bearing the whole brunt of it. Even when you share it, it's triggering things in me. It is, and I think the hope is that mine certainly that you what you need to do is write a movie or get a movie done to get it off and then
Well,
put
I
it.
want that. I mean, you know, it's
Tom, you need to hook her up with Evan Wright.
I will. I will. I think it's a great idea. Then you can put it to bed. Then you can say, yeah, it's like having a divorce party, except you're doing a movie about your life. You're like,
yeah.
Right.
okay, that's over. I'm onward and upward.
Yeah.
And do you
Yeah,
date? Are you dating anybody? Have you got to?
I've tried. It's really hard though when you have a kid with you 100% of the time and no help, because you know
Well, that's one of the things I feel like that comes from this. It's like a lot of people struggle is the co-parenting, but that co-parenting was taken from you when he passed away.
yeah.
So
Like, I'm always envious of people who get to co-parent. I'm like, wow, you get 50% time to yourself. I can't even imagine. Like, you're so lucky. So, you know, the grass is always
because
greener.
even though he's gone, it's left you with a whole nother slew of problems and heartache and things that are not easy to.
And it doesn't even feel like he's gone. He's
Yeah.
still very present in my life, because we talk about him still in court. I'm in charge of all of his businesses, and
Yeah.
now Alice's.
Here's the thing, though. You got this life. This is your one life, and your daughter's got this one life, and you have this one life together, and you got to get a situation where there isn't a pall over your happiness or your joy, because again, your kid will feel that. You know, you gotta. I mean, I put every day. Say I got to be in a good mood when the kids here, no matter what. I got to fake it, and sometimes it works pretty well because it's no trauma, and they're very sensitive. You don't want your daughter to have to deal with anxiety, depression from a generational trauma thing. And so, you know, your goal obviously is to be happy, and whatever that is, whatever happy is, you know,
Yeah. And it does take a toll on you, because and my daughter, she's 11 now. She still to this day does not know that we were ever even got divorced. I mean, I will say one of the pluses of your spouse dying, or the parent dying, is that you can create whatever you want to create. As far like, I tell her all the lies all the time about how great of a guy he was, like, you know, and I'm like, oh, dad was always there, and daddy was with you, and I say these things because I want her to feel like she had a father that was present, so that she doesn't have more issues than what.
Yeah.
You know, and I will say,
This
and
happened.
Monica, you know Alice really well. Like, I don't think anybody could meet her and say, oh, you know, she's got issues or something happened.
Never. She's so well adjusted. You can tell she's loved. She's a happy child. And I really do think, as horrible as everything is, like, her guardian angels or whatever, like, this happened to give her a better life. And it's just on you, and maybe this is your dharma or whatever your life's journey is, to fight for this good soul, and also learn for yourself in the process. And, you know, maybe I'm sure there's tons of lessons you've learned that, you know, that young, naive 20 something that didn't know, it made you grow up fast.
Real fast. And, you know, I'm turning 37 next week. Yeah, I mean, but it's you know, all this had happened before I turned even 30. So the amount of life experience that was thrown on to me at such a young age, you know, I guess it could have taken a different. I'm grateful for the head on my shoulders, and I guess I have my parents to thank for that.
So there's a lot of things that you may have ended up having to deal with that were just taken out of your hands, and I guess you call them, that would be blessings, that you know, you're there, you can make up your own story about your ex. You can, just for your daughter's sake, you want to, you know, because it could have been just years and years of more complications.
Oh my gosh, if he were alive and I was still going through what we were going through with the trying to frame me with drugs and the following, and that was,
he would have put his daughter in danger. It's 100%.
yeah.
Because of his behavior, and because he did it to make her first and go, okay, I'm going to go to rehab. I'm going for my daughter, not for you. I'm going for myself. He obviously was in a place mentally and emotionally where he would have definitely put her in danger. In fact, he did put her in danger.
He did, yeah.
Behavior and what he did to you. So
Mhm.
that was nipped in the bud. And it's great you don't have to deal with his parents because they're assholes. You know,
Yeah,
you're a good person. If they would have pretended to try and stuff, you would have had to still be involved with them. But fuck them.
I
So
know.
you're in a good spot. Let me ask this: do you have your own business? Where do you work? Or you work at a spa, salon? What do you do?
I mean, I used to own hair salons in San Diego, La Jolla, which I love doing. I owned them by myself, so it was me owning and operating. I was in charge of 30 people's lives, which is a lot, a lot. It was crazy how much they would come into me and tell me their problems. I'm like, oh my God, now I have your problems on top of my problems. Um, but it was fun, and I think I took this chance to move to LA to give me this fresh start, because I think that's when something like this happens, you gotta move, you gotta get out of there. Like, I don't really think there's a way to rebuild in the same place. So it's just been 4 years since we've been here, so I'm still trying to figure out what's the next thing for me. It's been nice not having to work because I've been in the probate world, and now I'm supervising. I'm on the board now of my late husband's businesses. So overseeing all that and getting a quick education as to how to run a public company and all these things that I've had to endure over these last few years. So I really don't have time to go focus on what I love and go create another business that I love. I invest in things that I enjoy, like the Bourbon Room is one of my investments.
The Bourbon Room.
Yeah.
Is that where I do comedy?
Yes, that's where you do comedy.
I love
Yeah,
that
I'm one of I'm one of the
That's such a
original.
cool venue.
Yeah, it's I'm one of the original investors. I think I'm gonna have my birthday party there on
Yay.
Friday, so I want you guys to come. Um, and yeah, it's just I'm trying to find, my main focus is making sure Alice is happy, and and she wants to be an actor, so what better place to be than here? So getting her going with all that is right now what we're focused on. And just as sad as it sounds, it's just I'm still in survival
Yeah.
mode.
I need you to just kind of do an outline, the beats of your story, and then you and I'll get together and we'll talk about getting a real writer on there
Mhm.
because that's I mean, your story is
It's insane, and like I'm leaving out so much, because we only have so much time. But
Like, if not a movie, this is a few seasons of a really good show.
Mhm. And I've even had the judges say, like, who's writing the script for this movie? Like, I've had judges say that before,
Love a judge with a sense of humor. Well, so today, where you are today, I know, like, I've known you, and I think you really do deserve some love, a lot of love in your life. And um, but I think, can you speak on, like, your trust issues still with men or relationships in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's scary to think that you marry someone that you actually in the end don't know at all, like that. And that to me, and I've always tried to protect myself by saying, oh, well, how can I avoid this ever happening to me again? And well, I guess that means not being in a relationship ever again. And that's something I'm working on, and I know I need something I need to get over. But I also think with the right person, they're going to be able to recognize those things in me and be more patient with me, and you know I, I feel like there's going to be a balance when I meet the right person. Hasn't happened yet.
I understand completely what you're talking about, being married to someone that you just don't know, and going back and saying, well, what was my part? Why was I naive? What was I doing that made this happen? Because this person has always been this person who it
Mm-hmm.
turns out to be. So
Mm-hmm.
what was it about me? You were very young. That's a people that are young and don't have, a lot of worldly experience, a lot of we all make mistakes. Sometimes we get lucky and get with someone that's a good person, but sometimes we don't. And you know, there's also men out there that have gone through similar things as you, and
Yeah.
I just feel like you could really bond with someone who's kind of went through the same thing, or they're nervous, they don't want to,
Yeah.
afraid, and I think somebody like that would be great.
I also feel like you can really, I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I feel like you can really help a lot of people, whether somewhere down the line there's some public speaking for you to help young girls, because I mean, you could have been wrapped up in this somehow and gone to jail yourself. I mean, you just never know.
And I've always thought that too, just with the way that it all kind of worked out when I first moved to LA, to then Jeff being, Jeff Lewis is one of our mutual best friends, and him saying, come on to my radio show, something I've never done, zero experience. Nobody told me what I was getting myself into. And then I wish that I had known what I was getting myself into, because now I can approach it differently, because I'm like, wait a second, I have all this life experience and I have all these things that I can talk about. Like, maybe I am where I am supposed to be, because I am supposed to talk about it. And I've always been shy about this certain subject because of wanting to protect my daughter and her father, and the trying to, even though I can't change what's on the internet, I always just felt really guilty saying anything about him. But I think it's just gotten to the point now where I'm like, you know what, it's been 7 years. She's older. She's going to find out about it soon.
I think the fact when you had your business, your salons, the 30 people that work for it would come to you and talk about their problems.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is on a bigger scale, because you're the kind of person that people go, she'll understand whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's why it would be super powerful for you to be that person, the voice, and you do it on a big scale, and because you share so honestly. So
Yeah.
and with that, this weekend I go down to Florida to do this mental health, chemical abuse fundraiser and share my story. And there's nothing more satisfying to me, to any of us, than sharing the truth about your story, which would be humiliating for regular people. But then seeing other people go, oh no, that's me. I need help. So you don't bond with everybody. You don't
Yeah.
connect with everybody, but people you connect with really need you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, actually, I know, Monica, you had spoken to me over the summer about coming on, and I was hesitant. And then when I met Tom, I was like, you know what, let's just do it. I'm going to talk about it, because you never know who might be going through it and needs to see that there is, hey, I made out, I'm okay. I'm on the
You're
other
on the other side, still going through the shit, but on the
Yeah,
other
I'm still
side.
going through it, but now it's no longer consuming my life, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a lot more life to live. And if this all happened in just at such a young age, and I'm still so young, I can only imagine. Hopefully, it's calmer waters moving forward.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because one night I asked Krista, I was like, has he ever come to you in a dream since he died? And you were like, yeah, we kind of made peace with it. And he kind of, didn't you say you just felt like he knew that you were there you were taking care of Alice, and that was what was most important.
But that was also when I had COVID and I was hallucinating. I
No,
remember, and I told you, I told you he lost weight.
Listen.
you've got to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I
Yeah.
definitely do. I definitely forgive him, and I forgive him too. No victim over here. I hate people who have that victim mentality. I'm like,
Right. But see, that's why you talk to them. When women feel like they're victims, you said, well, here's the deal. Here's what we're going to do about that. And you share what you've done. And or dealing with parents or whatever kind of bullshit.
Yeah, and I really feel like having a child is what makes the difference between people who have a victim mentality and the people who feel like, I'm going to be a survivor and victor over this. And I think that when you have a child, like I can only imagine if I didn't have a child, I would be a lot more selfish and probably be like, woe is me, why is this happening to me? Look, telling everyone like, look what happened to me.
And who knows, you may have still been with him, you know, in a lot of ways. I think, you know, she saved you and you saved her.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I had to be strong and I had to be a good example for her because I don't want her to be affected by any of this.
But there's also a lot of women and men that don't realize what you're saying, and they're like, "Woe is me." She's a bit in front of the kid, like he's a crazy person. He's this, he's a bit. I don't, which they don't get. That's horrible for the kid.
Terrible.
You know, what he did, but people stay in it. They stay in their, their homo.
Of course. And I think most parents need to remember you are responsible for a human being's childhood. Don't fuck it up, they get one childhood.
Yeah.
And like, even though all this shit happened to me and it's okay. Like it's not going to affect her. And I'm going to do everything
for her generation to have less trauma than you,
Right.
or maybe even your phone. The lessons you've learned, you want her to feel that and go, okay,
Mhm.
I'm empowered. I'm not going to go through the bullshit.
Yeah. And I can already tell you when she turns 18, I can guarantee you that those disgusting grandparents of hers, of her dad's parents, are going to come knocking and being like, we tried to have a relationship with you. Your mother wouldn't let us. And then I'm going to have my 11 boxes of evidence and I'm going to and I also have gotten to the point where like I do talk to her and I've gotten to where I couldn't get a nanny, so she's had to go to court with me, but she stayed with my attorney's receptionists. And she's always like, who are you going to, like, why are you always in court, and I'm like, well, your grandparents, like, and I would tell her, and I would like, I got to the point where you have to stop lying to protect people, because these people are bad and they don't deserve that protection. Like, I'm gonna have to tell her the truth, and I don't want it to be hard for her to believe. I want her to be able to be like, I lived through this.
You're doing a great job. Well, thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This was great. It was feels like therapy, right?